We're going to talk about the 100 days. We're a week early, but we're going to talk about the 100 days because how much worse can it get in a week?
Well, we'll
That's
see
asking
once he
for it.
announces. We'll see if he announces. Knowing him, and whenever we record, he'll probably announce 2,000% tariffs on the
Oh
entire
yeah, yeah.
planet.
Oh, that's good. That's good. 2000% tariffs, and he's going to gift Ukraine to Russia fully and um new meme coin, something like that.
Something like that. I mean,
Baron,
yeah,
Baron
we'll see.
meme coin.
Baron meme coin. Yeah, we'll see what happens on the Ukraine thing because he just posted a Truth Social post saying, "Vladimir, stop." I'm not even joking. Yeah, yeah. It was. He wrote Vladimir, stop. So like, I
Oh,
guess
he really said
he's
that.
he said it. No, he wrote a bunch of stuff saying the tax. Yeah, he actually I mean, he didn't go as far as to criticize him, but he said Vladimir, stop! Explanation points. Like he was
Oh my
telling
God.
a boyfriend to relax. But basically, yeah, that was how you read it. You read it like the White Lotus. Piper, no, that was what I
Yeah.
heard. But
Okay. All right.
basically we'll see. We don't know what's going to happen by the time this is recorded and the 100-day mark
But
hits. But all we know, the
the
story's the
story of the hundred
same.
days is written. It's the same as we predicted in the very beginning. He's a fucking idiot. They all are. He has succeeded in surrounding himself with other idiots, and now they just do stupid shit, and they do it everywhere. Unfortunately for us, they do a lot of harmful, stupid shit everywhere, but it's still very stupid. And
Yes.
we called that. That's what we've been saying since the beginning, right?
Yeah, and some of it is methodical. There's some people like Russell Vogt in there they're gonna start to do more
Mm-hmm.
methodical stuff. He was the mastermind behind the original cuts,
Yep.
but Musk just idiotically pursued them, and like we've been claiming, he's having to crash out. We'll get to that in a second, but basically, overall, in a nutshell, this has been incompetent, chaotic, authoritarian, but at the same time, they're really triggering democracy's immune system with the
Right.
courts and institutions fighting back.
Yeah. On the incompetence, um, Rachel Maddow basically brought it all home. She had a home run last night, basically, and just detailed how incompetent it was. And it was like this date, the next day, 2 days later, 3 days later, and it's policy and then retract the policy. It's
Yep.
massive cuts and then retract the cuts. It's big, some big decision and the court rules against them and they got to pull back. It's things that they have said over and over again are mistakes. We made a mistake on this. We accidentally did that. Um, you know, it's the cuts that Doge said that they made where they, added a few zeros. It's the Harvard thing where they said, "Oh, this is an administrative error,
Yeah.
basically, and we didn't mean to send that letter out." Stupid shit. And some of
Yeah.
it is like very clear that they erred, and other stuff is just an excuse for them making the wrong decision and them wanting to not have egg on their face, and so they just say, "Oh, it was an accident," but it's
Exactly.
it's just decision after decision after decision that's incompetent.
And the thing is, while they'll in court say it's an accident, or like in an official letter with Harvard say it's an accident, or they administrative errored their way into violating due process rights for Abrego Garcia, or they
That's
do
right.
all these different things, they'll in courts admit mistakes, and then publicly they're defiant. Publicly
Right.
they're like, "Oh, we made no mistake," and so basically it looks like this self contradictory just
Or
mess.
or like or they'll issue an official statement and then Trump from the Oval Office will have, he's like, they're like, we accidentally deported him. Well, look at his knuckles and the MS-13 fucking,
No, no,
tattoos or whatever.
exactly. Then they double down, and so that's what we're seeing is just this like onslaught of ridiculousness. And the thing is, they're trying to create this. They're trying to act like it's all part of the master plan, and they use that flood the zone thing as kind of a guise to
Hmm.
make it seem like, oh, they're just the chaos is on purpose. Some of that is on purpose, but a lot of it is them tripping over their own feet, like we've been claiming with Musk, with all of these other
Yep.
people. It's just not sustainable. And we're seeing that happen. We're seeing it reflected in the polling. His previously biggest strength in the economy is now his biggest weakness. in Poland,
That's
one of the
right.
biggest weaknesses, because he
Economy and immigration, right? He just completely dunked on himself. Self-own.
cell phone, and we're seeing his approvals plummet with young people and Gen Z. We're seeing it plummet everywhere because these tariffs are ridiculous. And one second they say, "Oh, we're doing a exemption on electronics," and Howard Lutnick goes out the next day, Commerce Secretary, and says, "Oh, no, no, actually no. We're actually not going to do that, and those are actually temporary exemptions." And it's just this back and forth that the business community can't keep up with, that
Yep.
regular people with their 401ks can't keep up with. We're
Foreign
lucky,
countries.
foreign
Yep.
countries, and I keep saying this, we're lucky he's so incompetent and egomaniacal. Otherwise, a more competent version of him would have just rode Biden's economy to
Right.
60% approval rating and then let Russell Vought silently destroy the government and implement Project
Yeah.
2025. But instead, here we are.
Yeah. So the incompetence means he's beatable, right? That's the really good thing. They're doing all this stuff out in the open because they think that they're unbeatable. That narcissism and that overconfidence means that they kind of throw stuff out there, and it's actually it's a lot, but it's easier for us to deal with than if it were hidden, right? Which is what you're saying.
Exactly.
So 100 days in, I think we're winning. And succeeding and pushing back. Let me say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
we're,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
not we're not winning if we're constantly reacting and we feel like we're on the defense, and we know how to push back. All
Yeah.
different fronts are pushing back. Elected officials are finding a spine. We don't need all of our elected officials to be perfect, but enough of them are starting to push forward. We do need to put some more pressure on the folks in the House and get more moderate Republicans to move. And there's still things to be done, but it is not uh, confusing on what we can do. It, I think we're pulling every single lever. We're putting pressure wherever we can, and there's a way forward. That's
There,
the
there's
100 days,
there's
I
a
think.
there's a way forward, and I also think, a lot of criticism towards media, the previous, during the election, and I think they're doing well overall. Just as a journalist, myself, I might be slightly biased, but I'm always reading and seeing what everyone's doing, and I do have areas
Yeah,
of criticism for them. But for the most part, I think the stakes are being laid out accurately. I think people understand what's going on, and I think most people are on the same page. Like, there's not really that many people in mainstream media carrying the water, that aren't in the right wing ecosystem. Like, people are pretty clearly outlining what's going on. At CNBC,
yeah,
there's some, the lone voices that try to defend the tariff stuff get shut down pretty quickly by people like Steve Leisman and Carl and others there. But like, are largely, I think the American people are they're seeing what we have been warning about this entire time. They're seeing he's an undisciplined, unprincipled guy, wants absolute power, has absolutely no discipline. He is just a man that was not meant for this moment, and he's eroding all the progress. And no one wants a recession unilaterally caused by one human being. And I think
yeah.
that is why people are beginning to see the other parts of him that are flaws.
Yeah, and that point about the media, I think we don't give start with mainstream media enough credit. They are finding new ways to talk about him. They're not just parroting his headlines anymore, like they did in Trump one. Um, I would say that MSNBC has like made their peace with where they stand. There used to be this like tug of war with trying to remain neutral. Now they're like, fuck it. But like, there's no neutral. There's no middle here. We have to just call out that this is bullshit, or this all gone. Everything's gone. The media as we know it is gone, and so we're actually gonna like pick a side here and defend. And then CNN, CNN has brought they rose different people up into prominence, and then they're bringing different voices to the table. I don't always agree with their approach, but they are trying different things, and they're not just going on the same old model. And they're not just kowtowing to Trump, which is
Exactly.
what some folks did early on, right after he won the elections.
And that's
And
a
you're there
sign.
every day, and you get to see this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's a sign of the eroding public support, right? If he had 60% approval, I
Yeah,
think the coverage would be different.
they
I
would.
think
Yep,
I think
good
they're
call.
I think they're
Yep.
moving with the people, right? They're seeing the people hate this.
Yeah.
reality and truth, I think if he had 60% approval and was still dismantling government, it would probably be mostly MSNBC and
Yeah.
some investigative reporters at the New York Times that were covering every step of it. But since he brought Musk as the face mascot of the Project 2025 cuts, it rubbed it in everyone's face. So I think
Yeah.
we're at this place where institutions are responding. Harvard was an amazing sign. Like, I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's what it takes. The more people that step up and say no, like what we talked about in that last video, which I saw made it into some right wing spaces on YouTube. I'm not sure if you saw, but it popped. It started to pop off there. But
Wait, can we talk about that for a second?
yeah,
There's how many comments are on that? There's like 100 comments on it.
yeah, it's like
Okay.
I mean, it got organic
And
play.
it got organic right wing play. It is the comment section of that last video. If you're watching this one, watch the last or look at the comments or don't. Or maybe don't do that to yourself. But it is like a cesspool of right wing talking points. There's bots in there. Uh then there's a few reasonable people who I think are moderates that have just been like swept up in, right wing talking points. But it is amazing the vein that we tapped into there. For this video, please comment.
Yeah, yeah,
Please, please
yeah. And
comment. We
that's what
need
I'm
we need
saying.
our folks who are on our side to help us out in the comments.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say, yeah, because it's a Kilmar Abrego Garcia video,
Yeah,
and I just want to tell them thank you for the comments because it really boosted us in the YouTube algorithm. So please,
yeah,
please, if you're a hater, comment. We would love to hear your hate in the comments below. Anti-subscribe, do whatever you got to do. Appreciate
yeah,
the help.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Spread it around with your friends. Send the link out on Reddit.
Put on Truth Social, whatever you got to do to get
Yeah.
get those comments in. But yeah, so basically, point is
But
like,
on that point, like with YouTube also, I think that major media is doing their thing. I think that alternative media is doing their thing too. I think you see this. I don't think they even acknowledge each other, but PodSave is bringing on people from the Bulwark, and they're Brian Tyler Cohen and stuff like they're like starting to ally themselves with each other. Like the last video I saw from PodSave where they had Tim Miller from the Bulwark on there. They were literally like, guys, we're working on it. We understand that the right has had an ecosystem in the podcast sphere, and we're working on an alternative to that. We're working on the left wing side. They had a jump start in front of us, but we're working with each other now. We're trying to build something. Like literally, he said that in the video with Tim
yeah,
Miller there. And I think I love it. I think that they are doing it. They're doing better. They're bringing in people who even are on the fringes of like the podcasting sphere, and they're just everyone's all a part of it. It's great.
yeah, it's really good to see people coming together on that front, and people on TikTok are rising and spreading the truth,
Yeah.
and the algorithm, it's amplifying because there's just so much anti-Trump content that it's amplifying, and I
Yep.
just think the vibe shift is here. I think Trump indicative of all of this is Trump misread his mandate.
Yep.
They thought they want a
From
cultural
the
mandate.
beginning.
They from the very beginning, from the second. At first, I was worried, and then I stopped being as worried once I saw the cabinet picks back in November, and I literally wrote, he's already overreaching and he's cooked, and that's what's happening here. And on that overreach, I did want to touch on this one big transition that we're seeing here with Elon Musk, who Tesla's profits are down 71% in the Q1 report,
Off a cliff.
off
Off a
a
cliff,
cliff.
bro. What do you say?
Sales
He's
are
quitting
down.
politics?
He said he is going to step down from Doge and then go back to, and then this just shows that the backlash worked. And also, we
Yep.
called this.